Good morning, everybody. We're waiting for a speech that Poilievre is going to deliver from St. John's, Newfoundland. So we're just waiting on that. How are you today? What's up? So this is it. We're just waiting on this. Looks like they're getting ready to get fired up. Have you ever been to St. John's? It's lovely there. All right, I hear him. I think he's here. Hey, good morning. So we're just waiting on a speech from Pierre Poilievre. There he is, though.
Thanks very much, everyone. What a beautiful view we have here. I'm going to be a little distracted while I speak. But thanks very much
here we go.
Cliff Small, who is not only a proud and strong member of Parliament for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but also the Shadow Minister of Fisheries, fighting for the men and women who bring home the catch. Merci beaucoup d'être venu aujourd'hui. On va commencer rapidement en français. Tout d'abord, Justin Trudeau est en train de capoter. Il est en panique totale. Après 8 ans où il a dit qu'on avait besoin d'une taxe carbone pour augmenter le coût de nourriture, de chauffage et de l'essence, il avoue que sa taxe n'en vaut pas le coup. Mais qu'est-ce qui a causé cette volte-face de Justin Trudeau? Est-ce que c'était parce que 9 sur 10 jeunes croient qu'ils ne vont jamais pouvoir acheter une maison à cause de l'inflation de Justin Trudeau? Non. Est-ce que c'est à cause de l'augmentation de 78% dans le nombre de Canadiens qui utilisent des banques alimentaires, un record de 2 millions de visites aux banques alimentaires dans un seul mois? Non. Ça n'a pas été important pour lui non plus. Est-ce que c'était l'explosion dans l'itinérance? Non. Ça n'a pas touché le cœur de Justin Trudeau non plus. Qu'est-ce qui a causé Justin Trudeau à faire volte-face sur la taxe carbone? C'est qu'il est en train de chuter dans les sondages et que Pierre Poilievre et les conservateurs de gros bon sens sont en train d'avoir des grands rassemblements à travers le Canada atlantique pour contrer la taxe Trudeau. Donc c'est ça, c'est sa carrière politique. Ce n'est pas le coût de la vie, c'est le coût des votes qui a causé Justin Trudeau de faire volte-face. Mais encore, il n'a pas réglé le problème qu'il a causé. Il continue avec son plan d'augmenter les taxes carbone. Il va les augmenter à travers le Canada, y compris au Québec, où il s'applique le deuxième taxe carbone, le soi-disant règlement sur les combustibles propres qui va augmenter le coût de l'essence diesel de 17 sous le litre et 20 sous si on ajoute le taxe de vente. Et le Bloc québécois veut radicalement augmenter cette taxe. Radicalement augmenter la taxe, dit le Bloc québécois. Ça coûte cher voter Bloc. Ça coûte très cher voter Bloc. Donc aujourd'hui, le Parti conservateur, guidé par le gros bon sens, réclame l'abolition totale des taxes Trudeau pour réduire le coût de la vie. C'est ça le gros bon sens. Nous allons continuer avec notre campagne à travers le pays pour ramener des prix plus bas, des chèques de paie plus forts, des maisons abordables, des rues sécuritaires pour ramener le gros bon sens chez nous. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
Here we go. Here we
Justin
go.
Trudeau is in total panic mode. After 8 years of telling Canadians they had to pay higher carbon taxes on gas, heat, and groceries, he admitted that his carbon tax is not worth the cost of heat. Now, what caused this sudden press conference that he cobbled together on Parliament Hill with little notice? Was it because he was concerned at the 78% increase in food bank use under his watch? No. Was it because he worried that 1.9 million visits had to happen in a single month to food banks because Canadians could not feed themselves after 8 years of his leadership? No. Was it because he's worried that scurvy is making a comeback after 8 years of his government's taxes and inflationary policies? No, that didn't worry him either. It was because he was worried that he doubled the cost of housing, or that these homeless encampments are becoming common right across the country. That wasn't his concern either. What caused Justin Trudeau to freak out yesterday and hold a sudden press conference to announce that he was going to pause the carbon tax on home heating oil? The answer is that he was plummeting in the polls, and Pierre Poilievre was holding massive rallies in Liberal-held ridings to axe the tax. Justin Trudeau's not worried about the cost of living. He's worried about the cost of votes. And that's what caused his panicked flip-flop yesterday. Yesterday was the one-year anniversary that Liberal MPs, including Liberal MPs from Newfoundland and Labrador, voted to keep taxes on home heating oil. But what does this announcement really mean? Well, one, Trudeau and the Liberals are still going to go ahead with a carbon tax on your gas and groceries, a tax they plan to quadruple to 61 cents a liter. Two, Justin Trudeau announced yesterday that if you re-elect him, he will put the tax back on your home heating oil. Three, he says, don't worry, he'll send you $11 more in the mail. $11. These days, that's a few cups of coffee. Who's going to feed themselves on $11? While he drives up the cost of the gas and diesel that you put in your car, the fuel that goes into the boats of our fishermen and into the tractors of our farmers, which will drive up the cost of all the food we bring home. That's what you're voting for if you keep Justin Trudeau or the local Atlantic Canadian Liberals elected. A 61 cents a liter carbon tax that will force our seniors to cut back on meals and go hungry. It'll mean more malnutrition. It'll mean hundreds of thousands more Canadians jamming into food banks. Lineups at food banks, they look like bread lines from the Great Depression after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. But he's not done yet. So my message to Atlantic Canadians and all Canadians, don't be fooled by Justin Trudeau's latest panic maneuver. He still plans to hit you with a 61 cent a liter carbon tax, and every single Liberal MP is responsible for making that tax apply. And finally, what about all the other Canadians who don't use home heating oil but use gas? Gas, which ironically has lower greenhouse gas emissions, we'll still pay the carbon tax. So working class people in the suburbs of Ontario, the prairies, and British Columbia who heat with natural gas will be cold and broke because of Justin Trudeau and his carbon tax. He's excluding, he doesn't care about them because he's making political calculations. This is not about environmental science, it's about political science. The good news is that life wasn't like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. Common sense conservatives are going to turn the hurt that he's caused into the hope that Canadians need. Pierre Poilievre and the common sense conservatives will axe the Trudeau tax entirely and forever. There will be no flip-flopping. There will be no turns of corners. There will be no little targeted exemptions here or gimmicks there. We will axe the Trudeau tax completely. And we will bring home more powerful paychecks with lower income taxes that reward hard work by approving natural resource projects to bring Newfoundland and Labrador's oil and gas sector roaring back to life so that we can replace the overseas oils we're bringing in with clean Canadian energy. We'll approve natural gas liquefaction projects so that we can turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. We'll incentivize cities to speed up and lower the cost of building permits, to build homes that Canadians can afford. We'll bring home safety with jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders, treatment and not more tax-funded drugs for addicts. We will bring home safety by sealing our borders against illegal guns smuggled from the United States, and we will respect law-abiding and licensed sport shooters and hunters and end Justin Trudeau's harassment of them. All in all, we can sum it up in 2 words: common sense. The common sense of the common people united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll now have time for questions from the floor.
We're going to do some questions now. This is great.
Peter Cowan with CBC. I want to ask you about your plan for addressing climate change. You said technology, not taxes. Does this mean larger subsidies than already exist for clean energy and technology? And would you leave in place any regulations currently there meant to curtail greenhouse gas emissions?
Thank you very much for your question. We're going to green light green projects. Right now, the biggest obstacle to clean energy is government gatekeepers. It takes 25 years to get a mine approved. That's why we don't mine lithium for electric cars' batteries. We import that refined lithium from China where they burn coal to produce it. I would quickly green light lithium mines. I would compress the timelines to assess the safety of small modular nuclear reactors so that we can power our grid with clean, green, emissions-free nuclear. I would remove the duplication so that Quebec can more quickly build its hydroelectric dams to double emissions-free hydroelectricity production in that province so that we can power the green economy of the future. I would green light tidal wave power like the kind Trudeau killed off the coast of Nova Scotia. I would incentivize and approve carbon capture and storage projects in Western Canada so that we can bring down the emissions and have the lowest emitting barrel of oil that comes out of the ground. I would green light natural gas liquefaction projects that will be the lowest emitting anywhere on Earth, using clean hydroelectricity and cold weather to liquefy the gas, and the short shipping distances to send it to Asia and shut down dirty coal-fired Asian coal-fire plants and replace it with clean Canadian gas, and send it to Europe so that we can break European dependence on Putin and Qatar and turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Hi, Cameron Kilfoy with The Telegram. Even with the changes announced by Trudeau yesterday, I'm curious how this impacts those in NL. Is it enough to help?
No. This is a tiny gimmick. First of all, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians should know that Trudeau still plans to bring in a 61 cent a litre carbon tax on your gas and your diesel. 2, They should know he will continue to tax the fuel of the fishermen and farmers who produce our food and the truckers who ship the food, which is a tax on all the food. It is going to be a very high tax on the rural and remote communities. I was in Yukon. The grocer in Whitehorse said that he paid more in fuel charges to ship the food from Edmonton than he did for the food itself. So this is a Trudeau tax on food, on gas, and if he's reelected, it will be a tax on your heat. Remember, he's saying if he gets reelected in the next election, a year later, he will put the tax back on home heating oil. So this is a scam designed to trick oil heating households into voting for him one more time before he can hit them with his big tax hike. Only the common sense conservatives will axe the tax entirely.
Okay. Next question.
Ben Cleary, NTV News. I want to ask about housing. The federal housing minister has said that the biggest issue in this province seems to be a labor shortage. Do you agree with that, and how would you address the housing crisis here?
Well, that didn't seem to cause a problem when I was housing minister, and rent was half, mortgage payments were half, down payments were half of what we pay now. After 8 years of Trudeau, he's doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment for the average home. After 8 years of Trudeau, the average family now has to spend 6% of their gross income to make monthly payments on the average home. That was only 39% when I was housing minister. After 8 years of Trudeau, we have the second worst housing bubble in all of the OECD. We have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on after
weird.
8 years of Trudeau. So my common sense plan is to speed up the permitting. The problem is we have the second slowest permits. It takes 7 to 10 years to get communities zoned and permitted to build on. That adds literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to the cost of every newly built home. Many developers will tell you they spend more time on paperwork than they do on construction. My common sense plan, first and foremost, will incentivize cities to speed up and lower the cost of building permits. I'll require every city permit 15% more homes per year, or they'll lose federal grants. If they beat the target by 10%, they'll get 10% more money. They miss it by 10%, they'll get 10% less. In other words, I want to pay the city bureaucracy the way real estate agents get paid. They get paid on volume of sales. I want to pay the cities based on the volume of housing completions. I'm going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build. I'll require CMHC, which is the bureaucracy that approves financing for apartment buildings, to hit the 60-day target for approving financing. Right now it takes 2 years for developers to get approval from CMHC. I will cut the executive pay of CMHC by 50% if they don't get the average approval time down to 60 days. And if they still haven't done that by a year, I'll fire them all. We're going to have fast approval of financing for apartments. Build homes, not bureaucracy. Finally, the big cost right now is higher interest rates. Interest rates have gone up faster under Justin Trudeau than at any time in monetary history. Why? Because of $500 billion of inflationary deficits that bid up the goods we buy and the interest we pay. We must cap spending and cut waste to balance the budget and bring home lower mortgage rates. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Smelly. I'm with the Canadian Press. Given concerns that you and others have voiced over pro-Palestinian rallies, demonstrations that some argue have amounted to support for Hamas, if you form the next government, would you introduce laws that were in place under the Harper government that criminalize the advocacy or promotion of terrorism offenses?
So we would, let's distinguish. People can protest any cause they want. They can state any opinion they choose. And that will not change when I'm Prime Minister. I am running for Prime Minister to make Canada the freest nation on earth. So people are free to disagree with me on the Middle East or anything else. I have condemned people with my words, not with any proposed censorship, who have glorified the genocidal attacks by Hamas on Israeli civilians, which was the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. We have already a criminal prohibition on providing material support to listed terrorist organizations like Hamas. That should be enforced. If you donate, raise money, coordinate, recruit for Hamas, it is already a crime, and you should be arrested and prosecuted if you do that. At the same time, people are free to express any opinion they want, even when I find those opinions appalling. Finally, I don't agree with you conflating Palestinians with Hamas. They're completely different. The Palestinian people are not responsible for the evil of Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist dictatorship. It poses itself on Palestinians. The Palestinian people themselves are innocent, their lives are precious, and we should do everything we can to protect them and their families during this difficult time. And the Conservative Party expresses total solidarity with Canadian Jews and Canadian Muslims, both of whom are suffering because of this horrendous war that Hamas has unleashed and the evil that that organization represents. And in conclusion, we do believe Israel, like any other country, has the ability and the right to defend itself. Thank you.
Okay. Next question.
Andrew Robinson, allnewfoundlandlabrador.com. Regarding the recent Supreme Court decision that struck down most of the Impact Assessment Act, I was wondering what you might suggest the federal government should look at in terms of bringing anything to replace it.
We should replace Trudeau's anti-development law C-69, now found unconstitutional by the courts, with a common sense law that consults First Nations, protects our environment, but gets decisions made. Our goal should be to have decisions within 1 year of an application. That way we could unleash the production of Canadian resources and do it in the most environmentally responsible way. You know, right now it takes 25 years to approve a mine in Canada. I ask people, do we find anything out about a mining project in year 22 and 23 that we couldn't have found out in year 1? Same thing with nuclear power. It takes 11, 12, 13 years to get a nuclear power plant approved. Are we really learning anything in year 11 of that process that we couldn't have learned in year 1? Why don't we have the same strong environmental protections, but apply them more quickly? Finally, I would also recognize the environmental damage that is done by blocking Canada from harvesting its resources. When we don't produce resources, we cede the market to environmentally irresponsible foreign dictatorships. A common sense conservative government led by Pierre Poilievre will greenlight Canada's natural resource projects so that we can bring home powerful paychecks to our people.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Brian Callahan with VOCM News. You've mentioned the green lighting and expediting potential power projects. In the same vein, we've just had a recent massive wind project on the west coast of Newfoundland. The Federal Assessment Agency chose not to review it. People there are worried about the environmental impacts. Are you, unknown with this new industry, are you concerned about those potential environmental impacts if you're speeding up and expediting the environmental assessment process?
I don't think the problem is speed. I think the problem is we need to have the best science, the best information, and a careful, meticulous review, but we have to do them quickly. There's no reason why we can't apply the science and the data in 6 months or a year rather than 7 or 8 years. We need more power right across Canada. We need more affordable energy, and that means approving projects that are good. I can't comment on every single project in the country. I'd be happy to look into the one you mentioned in particular, but my overall approach will be to deliver quick decisions to greenlight green projects so that we can supply our grid with emissions-free power that is affordable to consumers.
Okay, thank you. And this will be the final question.
Thank you.
Bonjour, Kyle Mooney de Radio-Canada.
Bonjour.
Je veux savoir quel est votre plan précis et quelles sont vos cibles précises pour le climat?
Merci beaucoup. Notre approche pour le climat est l'envers des libéraux et bloquistes. Les libéraux et bloquistes veulent augmenter le coût de l'énergie traditionnelle dont on a toujours besoin avec une taxe carbone que le Bloc veut radicalement augmenter. On n'est pas d'accord avec ça. On va annuler la taxe carbone et au lieu d'augmenter le coût de l'énergie traditionnelle, on va réduire le prix des alternatifs de moins d'émissions en donnant le feu vert au projet vert. Par exemple, le Québec doit doubler la production d'hydroélectricité pour pouvoir alimenter, par exemple, des voitures électriques. Moi, je vais éliminer le doublement de revenus de ces projets parce que je fais confiance aux Québécois de protéger leur environnement tout en approuvant des projets comme le Québec a fait depuis un demi-siècle. Donc, ça va nous permettre d'alimenter le système avec de l'énergie verte. Deuxièmement, il faut aussi miner le lithium, le cobalt, le graphite et tout autre minéral pour fournir les voitures électriques des matériaux qui proviennent du Canada et non pas de la Chine ou d'autres pays plus polluants. Donc,
Do you guys
on va
speak French?
réduire le coût
I understand a
de l'énergie
little bit.
verte
I
au lieu
understand what he's
d'augmenter
saying.
le coût
At
de
least
l'énergie
there's that.
traditionnelle. On va donner le feu vert au projet vert. Merci. All right. Thanks very much, everyone.
All right, guys. I think that wraps it up. It's pretty entertaining. I didn't know we were going to get a speech live from St. John's, Newfoundland this morning, so that's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I'm Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. We're having quite a bit of fun. We're making different types of videos, doing a lot of live stuff. It's fun. We try to have a little bit of a good time with the politics. It's tough out there, guys. It's been really bad the last few years. Change is looming. Anyhow, it's been fun this morning to catch this speech. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. We'll be on here, I'm sure, a couple more times today. We'll have other videos going out. So like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Have a great Friday. We're out.